welcome to the next episode of the Appalachian Podcast. I'm your host, Billy Riddle. With me today is my co-host, CJ Arrington. Never mind, CJ's not here. He's about 45 minutes late. I hope he's got a good story of saving somebody through some fire issue, but I fear he's going to say something about having to spend time with his wife and really lame the whole thing out. So he'll be here shortly. He'll jump in. I think he'll be all right jumping in the conversation. We've got two other awesome fellows here today with us. We're going to talk a lot about some sports and a lot of local sports, a lot of these athletes that have grown up around here, went to school around here, maybe, just had some connection to this area, maybe the greater Roanoke Valley, try and get into a lot of those because even then it's going to take quite a bit. So we're being joined by Carter Chitwood for one. Carter, appreciate you showing up here today.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the invite.
And then somebody that just about everybody's going to know, former Ferrum College baseball coach, and a ton of his athletes that have come through there, especially if you listen to this show, Abe Naff. Abe, certainly appreciate your time coming on here today.
Well, welcome for the invite and look forward to talking about these former great players.
Now, I guess we'll start off we can start off with the baseball since one of your former players has been on the show multiple times. I wanted to start off with him, and I don't know if you've listened to the show or not, because we had a story about you in there in a mailbox. So, of course, Thomas Meeks played ball for you up there, and we'll talk about him just a little bit, but do you ever remember him still in your mailbox?
Absolutely.
So what was your version of the story? Because we've got his, and he said he owned up to it, but I just thought it was kind of funny how you found. He said he never knew how you found out, but
I found out that he did it.
Yeah.
Well, that was easy. You just ask his teammates, But it ended up on the pitcher's mail, so it wasn't hard for me to find it. But,
now, I heard a different story. I heard that they had took it and then he returned it before you ever knew anything about it.
No.
So his version was they went out there and a bunch of ball players, basically called him out, saying he wouldn't do it. And of course, him having to be that guy, he said he went and took it and then came back some hours later and returned it before you woke up. He said the way that he found out you knew was you'd said something about not getting a package and then he had to run polls. But see, he didn't tell us he left it on the pitcher's mound. He admitted that part from the story.
Well, it happened more than once. I thought that was the time he did it. But,
well, he could have been guilty both times.
Absolutely. But talking about Thomas Meeks, I love coaching that guy. He was a hard worker, a great athlete, and one of the best teammates that you could ask for. His teammates loved him because he was a very talented guy that worked very hard, and he could produce in the clutch. And not only was he a great pitcher, he was a draftable guy as a pitcher, but he was a very, very dangerous hitter. I wouldn't call him a good hitter, but he was a dangerous hitter. I mean, he could hit the ball a long ways, and seems like the bigger the moment was in a game, Thomas could come through. And, some of the great ones just have that knack of being able to do it in the clutch, and he was one of them. But I could coach a whole team full of Thomas Meeks, and people might not realize that or believe that because he's a little different. He's a little free spirit at times.
Eccentric.
And, but my relationship with Thomas Meeks on the baseball field, at practice and games, was unbelievable. And I was glad he was a part of my life, glad his family was a great family. And they made my life a lot better by Thomas being part of our program. And I could coach a whole team of those guys. But I wish him well. I think he's doing well, and he's fun to be around. You feel better when you leave Thomas Meeks than you did when you got there, and I just wish him the very best and wish I could see him more often, and just great guy. He's not only a great player, a great person, but the greatest compliment you can give a athlete is he was a great teammate. That's the highest compliment. Thomas is an All-American at Ferrum. He'll be in the Hall of Fame one day. And if he hadn't been injured, if he didn't hurt his foot late in his career, he would have been drafted and probably could have had a pretty good run in Pro Bowl. And I'm not just saying that. We had 25 guys sign professional contracts, and I have a little credibility when I say that he could have gone pretty far in pro ball because he was tall, strong, and he was willing to work to get better. But that foot injury really hurt his progress and his chances.
Well, I'm really glad you clarified that because, I've known Thomas for a long time, one of my closest friends. I mean, probably since we were 4 or 5 years old. I spent many nights over at his house running wild. And a lot of people just had this the wrong idea about him, that he was goofy, he wasn't a good teammate, he was all about himself and this and this. And we always wonder, like, how do you get that? Because he's one of the most loyal friends we have. And so we couldn't really see it. And, everybody, of course, talks and stuff. And I think that he's probably one of a lot of times it's not always about the athleticism, but it's about just the luck of the draw in his frame. To be, 6'6" and, right there at 200 pounds. I mean, that's just the kind of the mold that professional teams like, especially when you can hit and you can pitch, you can do either. So, yeah, he was a great guy around us. He was a real good friend, so it doesn't surprise me. I'm just glad that somebody clarified it for anybody that always kind of gave him hell.
But he had leadership qualities, and he didn't tell people what to do. He just showed them what to do. By working so hard and caring, and he wanted to win. And sometimes you have to be in the arena with those kind of people to understand the real person. And some people are very different when they cross those lines and the game starts. They put all that other stuff behind them and they get after it. And Thomas Meeks was one of them. But I like being around him off the field too, or when he wasn't playing. He was just made you relax. He was he could make you laugh, but he cared. And if you can consider him a good friend, you've got a great friend. I have total respect for that young man, and I just wish him the very, very best. But he's like a lot of the Franklin County players that played for us up at Ferrum, and they made that program unbelievably strong. And for you to be successful, you better be strong locally. And I'm not talking just Franklin County, but the counties that border Ferrum, and then spread that out, because most students and student athletes want to go within 3 hours of their home. The ones that go outside of 3 hours of their home have usually been given a scholarship, and they go for that. But the statistics show that students and players like to be fairly close to home. And Thomas was in his backyard, but I'm going to start naming some great players that played at Ferrum, and Carter's going to make sure I don't leave any of them out. But Thomas was an All-American, Chad France was an All-American, and Riley Hodges was an All-American. Brian Strong was a great player, should have been All-American, All-Conference 4 years in a row, Rookie of the Year. But he signed a contract, drafted in the 25th round by the Atlanta Braves. After we put him behind the plate, and he became a left-handed hitting catcher. Bob Scarborough signed with Cleveland. Darren Hodges went in the 10th round with the Yankees. Darren is credited with starting off the high draft choices. He got the scouts to come in here to realize where Ferrum was located. And then Eric came, Billy came, and Jimmy Hamilton came. But all the guys I just named are all what we consider local. And Tazewell, Tunstall, Harrisonburg, Rocky Mount. And
Pat Daly, wasn't that somebody up there? He was a home run hitter, right?
Oh, yeah, he's a great
out
player.
of Danville.
He was out of Danville. Should have won the Triple Crown. Hit 24 home runs, 72 RBIs. He wanted in those two categories, but he lost out on batting average, and he hit 508. Somebody hit 511. Should have been the National Player of the Year. That would have been our second national. He came in second to be in National Player of the Year. Eric Owens was National Player of the Year, the only one that Ferrum has ever had. But Eric was a two-time first-team All-American and didn't play but 3 years. But Franklin County, Kevin Anderson, Kendall Hall, Brian Forbes, Mike Bryant. Come on, Carter.
I think Nat Hodges played up there for a year or two.
Yeah.
Nelson and Wallace Chitwood.
Wallace Chitwood was 14-2. Nelson had a cannon. Pee Wee Chitwood, my assistant for 13 years. Really the one that deserves a lot of credit for that awesome program we had. He could do everything.
You're talking about a tireless worker. That man took care of that field and done everything he needed to do, whatever Abe asked him. Pee Wee was always there to take care of it.
We were always considered an offensive-minded team, always tops in the nation in hitting as a team. And Pee Wee, he had to throw 500,000 or 600,000 pitches. He threw BP all the time, and anytime anyone wanted extra work, Pee Wee was there. Tireless, great guy, and the players just loved him, and so he deserves a tremendous amount of credit.
Well,
Came from the big town of Glade Hill. All right, we got to name some more.
well, let's
Carter.
we'll welcome CJ here now. He just actually showed up. Were you saving a cat from a fire?
No.
Turn your mic on. No, you got to turn it on.
On.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you wanted to add your perspective. We were talking about the pros and cons of nuclear energy.
Nuclear energy. That's a. Nope. I'll hold off on that one. I do like the
we all
baseball
might be
talk
out on
though.
that one.
You might remember, I guess, Jason Purdue went up there and played for about a week, didn't he?
Played a little while.
Yeah, that's another. I'm trying to think of guys.
Jeremy Atkins.
Yeah, I remember him going up there. I'm trying to think of my time
Atkins
period.
finished at VMI, didn't he? Didn't Jeremy go to VMI?
I don't think so.
I'm not sure.
Luke Mitchell.
Now, Riley
Mitchell.
Hodges started the VMI and came to
Riley
Ferrum.
went to VMI.
I don't think Riley lasted too long at VMI. I'm not sure the story on that one.
So, hey, while we're in the local stuff,
Jesse Bowles.
that's right. Jesse went up there and played for a
Jesse
bit.
Great hitter, great pitcher.
Had a good career.
He was up there as a freshman playing fairly decent.
he was so good. Now Thomas Meeks would say more in 5 minutes in the dugout than Jesse Bowles was saying an entire year.
That's not
probably-
surprising.
No.
But Jesse was always ready to play, and you talking about a competitor. Yeah.
Yeah, that whole family was pretty good. You know, Larry went on, and I think he was an All-American at Tech, if I'm not mistaken.
He was.
Made USA team.
Yeah, and then he had an injury as well. I see him from time to time. My nieces hang out with his family, so good dude, hell of a ball player. And y'all, CJ and Abe, Abe, you were on the 1977 runner-up team, weren't you?
Yeah.
Y'all had some ball players.
We had one great one, Harold Brown. He pitched us all the way. Harold was unbelievable. Franklin County has always had good pitching. Franklin County is just a baseball county. And a lot of good pitchers have come out of Franklin County. And Harold was one of the best. And we played on Wednesday in the semifinals, quarterfinals. There was 4 of us left. If we won, we went to the state, so Harold pitched on Wednesday. So that earns us, to play in the state finals against Kempsville at home. And at that time, it was the largest crowd to ever witness a high school game in the state of Virginia.
Now, at that time, y'all weren't playing at W.W. Naff Field. Where were y'all playing?
Right down at the gym.
Okay.
Home plate was down at the
At the high
east.
school.
east end zone.
Okay.
There was no bleachers. All the bleachers were in center field because the football field ran east to west.
Gotcha.
There.
Nice.
Shortest part of the ballpark was center field. Down the lines were 400 feet. Center field's probably 310,
Wow.
315. So you want to hit it up the middle if you could. But Harold pitched that game, and we just couldn't pitch him in the final game. But it was also another record set in that game. In the fifth inning, we're down 2-1. We got runners on first and second, no outs. And Gary made a Hunt is up to bat. Any of y'all know Gary Hunt?
I know the name.
Runs his store down at 220,
Mm-hmm.
Boone's Mill,
Mm-hmm.
both sides.
The pottery.
Owned all that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, Gary hits a ground ball to shortstop. They tag the run, throw it to second, throw it to first. A ground ball triple play. Now it's 2-1 in the fifth, so we have a chance. Gary plays second base. Very seldom ever made an error because he was so slow he couldn't get too many balls. But he said he had never seen a triple play before, so he watched it going down the first base line. He was out by about 10 feet. But the reason we made it to out of the regionals, this is a great story because all of us know Alvin Hall.
Yeah.
Miss Alvin Hall. We loved Alvin Hall.
Yep.
And Alvin Hall saw more athletic events than
Probably anybody in the county.
anyone.
Oh, yeah.
But we're playing Halifax, and we're winning 4-3. And Stanley Davis is up for Halifax. Now, that name probably doesn't mean much to y'all, but we knew Stanley, the greatest high school hitter I've ever seen. And the year before that, Harold faced Stanley Davis. Stanley Davis was a great fastball hitter, and Harold Brown was a great fastball pitcher. So he challenged him. Well, this is the year before. Stanley hits it. Chuck Martin's our first baseman. He jumps for it. It's going up, and it hits 3/4 of the way up the side of that gym. The dent is still in the metal in the gym. It's 405 to the base of the gym. So I go out to the mound. I said, Harold, that ball hit the gym. He said, Abe, I'm glad it did. I thought it was going over. So I tell you that because he's such a great hitter. Well, he gets up there to run on first. We're up by 1. There's 1 out.
This is in 77.
This is in 77 in the championship of the regionals. So we pitch him away. Okay. So he hits the ball over the center field fence for a home run. But Glennis Young, I don't know whether y'all know Glennis, works for Hatcher Ferguson out there at Lumber, grades the lumber. He goes over the fence and makes the catch for out number 2.
Wow.
One of the greatest catches I've ever seen. And Alvin Hall is standing over there next to the light pole because the runner, it was a high fly ball, and the hitter missed it a little bit, but still going to be a home run. The runner on first knows it's gone, so he's headed toward third. Well, Glennis catches the ball, and they tell him to go back. Well, on the way back, he doesn't touch second base. Well, none of us see it, but Alvin Hall was standing over there. Throw it to second, throw it to second.
Perpetual student of the game.
So we threw it to second. Double play in and over. We win 4-3.
Shoot.
That's awesome.
Now, Glennis Young's in center field because our first string center fielder got hurt with us horse playing. We broke Cliff Hammock's arm horseplay and after we'd won a game. So Glennis was our backup center fielder. And we tell Cliff to this day that horseplay really paid off.
Yeah.
But that was two of the fastest teammates I'd ever had, was Glennis Young and Cliff Hamlin.
Now, you're talking about the 77 team there. Here earlier we were talking, you said the 76 team may have been better
Absolutely.
than the 77 team. Tell us a little bit about that team and some of the guys.
Well, we had Harold, but we had Gary Gilmore, too. Gary Gilmore was an elite athlete.
And for anybody that might not know that name, he is a Division I national championship coach, Coastal Carolina. I'd love to get him to come in here and tell some stories. I bet he's got some.
And he's a great guy, and he was a great baseball player, left-handed pitcher, but he played center field, and great hitter. He could hit with power. He could run. And we had him and Wayne Compton and Butch Jenkins and Les Hutcherson, Noel Chitwood, Harry Liggins, and we had Melvin. Melvin was Harry's younger brother. But we had extra pitching because of Gary. Mm-hmm. And, Harold was our tops, and John Burris was a great guy. He was our shortstop. Harold and John switched all the time, both of them shortstop pitchers, but John played so well, and he was really good. But we just had a bunch of guys that loved to play and great friends, and Harold Brown. And we rode his arm,
for 2 years.
Right. But Gary was a world-class athlete, great person. Like Billy said, they won the World Series from Coastal Carolina. That's not a Power 5 school. That shouldn't be.
They should be in the conversation.
Shouldn't, never. Well, y'all understand that Coastal Carolina went into LSU. LSU was a super regional host. Gary had to win 2 out of 3 down there and did it at LSU.
Yeah.
That would be like Callaway going to Snow Creek and winning 2 out of 3. That'd be something tough.
That's some shots fired right there.
Y'all want to talk about good high school players. Just name anybody from Snow Creek.
Oh, I can name off probably 5 or 6 off the top of my head when we went.
Those were guys that knew how to play, and all the Mitchells, Steve Oakes.
One that's kind of stood out to me is Mark Metz. He was a pretty good pitcher that come through Franklin County.
Mark Metz was a great pitcher. Played for Mark Newman at Old Dominion.
Didn't he end up in the Mariners organization?
Yeah. Let me tell you the story. About 3 of the pitchers in Franklin County: Mark Metz, Darren Hodges, and Harold Brown. They all had a connection to Mark Newman. Mark Newman probably doesn't mean anything, but he ended up being in charge of personnel for the New York Yankees.
Okay.
But he knew Harold Brown. Harold went to Chipola Junior College in Florida. After that, he went to Southern Illinois, pitched for Itchy Jones. Mark Newman was a pitching coach there at Southern Illinois. Mark Newman left there and became the head coach at Old Dominion and recruited Mark Metz, and Mark Metz pitched for Mark Newman. Darren Hodges was a 10th round draft choice out of Ferrum. He goes to spring training, and Mark Newman is in charge of player personnel. Darren's there stretching, and Mark Newman's going down through there checking off all the minor leaguers. Got their name and address. Darren Hodges, Rocky Mount, Virginia, the home of Harold Brown. It just blew Darren's mind. He said, I want to tell you, Harold Brown was the hardest working player I've ever seen, been around, coached. Just complimented Harold Brown. Mark Newman is no longer living, but he was big time with the New York Yankees. So, it's just one of those stories.
Yeah. This is how small the world is.
He was in Harold Brown's life, Mark Metz's life, And Darren Hodges is.
Well, things like that don't happen by accident, I don't believe. I mean, I think it's probably meant to happen to some degree. Now, y'all had it was 20 years later, right, that they finished second in the state again. Was that 96 or 97? That's your time, CJ. I mean, right before, as we were freshmen, I think.
Yeah, it was right when we were freshmen because we started, 90, we were 96
Yeah.
freshman year.
With Larry and.
Larry
Was a senior and we were freshmen.
Yeah, so you had Larry, you had Basham, you had Atkins, you had
Strong.
Brian Strong,
Brian Strong.
you had Jimmy Scott. Jeremy played up there as well.
You had 4 college pitchers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, started.
Basham being number 4 because he was a freshman.
Yeah. Well, he was a
A sophomore.
Basham was 2 years ahead of us, so he'd have been a junior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What year did they? I guess they finished second in the state would be our freshman year,
Our
right?
freshman year, yep.
And then our sophomore year, I want to say they had a really good chance to go do it again, and kind of like the situation you were talking about. I think it come down to who he wanted to bring in for pitching, and he could have brought Bobby in,
Yeah.
but wouldn't have had him for the next game.
Right.
And instead, I think everybody's critique was you should have just brought Bobby in and lived to see another day.
Right.
So just
because if you don't win that game, you don't move forward anyway.
exactly. And they ended up losing, I think, to GW Danville by maybe a run or something. It was really good. I mean, those teams were so good. I mean, as a sophomore and a freshman to go watch those, you just named off 4 or 5 that went up there and played at Ferrum. I mean, you're talking about being spoiled.
Chad Fouts would have been in that mix.
Yep, sure was.
Chad had a great career at
Tech.
Virginia Tech.
Tech.
Chuck Hartman was a good friend of mine. He always bragged about Chad and really liked coaching Chad and Larry.
And Gray.
Gray.
Gray played
right.
there as well. He played in the
Gray.
outfield for Chuck.
That's right. At one time, Tech had Larry.
3 of them.
Yeah, Larry Gray and Brian.
Gray
all
can
of them at the
fly.
same time. We're not
But all those-
Chad. I'm sorry.
All those Hodgeses could play, and I was fortunate enough to coach 2 of them, Nat and Riley. And man, they could play.
Well,
They were clutch.
talking about Frank County baseball, and one we hadn't brought up yet would be Ron Hodges, their dad, who had a stellar career with the Mets, won a World Series, and
Knows Willie Mays.
yeah,
That's
they
good
had
enough in
the
itself.
right blood in their veins. All them boys just grew up. with
Where'd he
balls
go
and
to
ran.
college?
Appalachian State.
That's right. You hear a lot about Appalachian State now.
The football program's killing it right now. They're doing really good.
But you got to talk about Dean Powell. He pitched at Ferrum, pitched at Tech. Probably one of the best left-handed pitchers. Who else we got? Dale Clements. Bob Divers. I'm missing some, but they were before me. These are,
We're talking about just out of Franklin County.
yeah.
Well, you got the one kid now. It's Carter. You're talking about
Nicholas
him.
Robertson, who graduated with my son, and now he's playing in AAA finished AAA with the Dodgers this year.
Yeah, he played with Bryce too.
Yeah, he's
Yep.
having a great career. Really leaps and bounds above where they thought he would be at this time. I mean, he's moved up. He went up from AA to AAA this year and finished there. So, good chance he may get a spring training invite and may make the 40-man roster for.
So how old is he
next year.
now?
He would be 23.
So typically they like keeping that real young talent in the AA. Would they bring him up, AAA? Is there any specific reason? Now, how does that exactly work? I mean, would they bring him up to AAA to maybe get him the major league kind of, personal experience, or, because AA's where all the hot prospects are at, right?
Well, I think at the time they brought him up, it was the time of the year that the Dodgers or any of the other clubs are looking to bring up. If they're looking to bring anybody from AAA to the majors, they had a roster spot, and he'd done well enough. At one time, he had an ERA under 1 or right around 1 for the year. He's a relief pitcher.
Shoot.
Throws it well. I think he's like 6'7", 6'8" now.
Tall.
Big kid. Throws it
Tall, lanky.
hard.
Yep.
Those mid to upper 90s. Good command on his fastballs, his off speeds. From what I know and talking to his dad and some other folks that keep in contact with him, they're real high on him. Their pitching coaching at the major league level is real high on Nicholas and wants to see him succeed and continue to grow.
Yeah, if he stays healthy, he'll have an opportunity, and he's very deserving. A nice young man, great family, a lot of support. Franklin County people need to know more about him and support him more, and we have someone that we can all pull for, and we'd like to see him in the show one day, and it's awful hard to do that. I mean, that's I forget how many big leaguers there are now. It used to be 750. It's less than 1,000 big league ball players. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
And 2% of all baseball players that sign a contract make it. 2%.
Yeah. And even those that make it, probably a big chunk of them don't make it more than a year or so.
Well, you can get there, but you got to find a way to stay there.
Now, we name off all these Franklin County athletes, and a lot of people around here will kind of understand where we're coming from. And if you're not from around here, you're kind of understanding the dynamics. With all that being said, I think Franklin County as a whole, for decades, shot itself in the foot when it came to, we didn't have any kind of traveling baseball or youth baseball other than rec, to kind of get those really good players together, play, because that's what Salem does. Salem gets them boys and they're playing the same sports together from the time they're 5 years old. We didn't have anything but intramural football at the middle school, so you didn't really start getting any kind of real understanding of the game till you were 9th or 10th grade. No sandlot to get us prepared. There was traveling soccer. It was about the only thing I can remember when we were growing up. No kind of traveling baseball. I think they had some AAU basketball, but they did have that when we were growing up. But, we just really missed the mark. And just think about if all these kids, they're adults now, but, the guys when we were in school, Larry and Bobby and all them boys had played all together since the time they were 5 on traveling teams. On one hand, maybe they would have burnt themselves out and maybe they would have never made it. But on the other, when you really get a chance to go play competition, you really start honing in on your skills.
Well, kind of talking about that, and Abe knows a little bit more about it than maybe you two do. CJ maybe some, but back in my day when we came through, our Dixie Youth program and our pony leagues and things like that and our Babe Ruth were stout. They were legitimate. We could have put those teams against any of the travel ball teams of today. But somewhere through the process, our recreation department 10, 15 years ago decided they wanted to get participation trophies instead of teaching kids how to play sports. And it changed. The dynamic of it changed. So that's why you see the insurgence of these travel balls, these showcases. But, when Abe and I were growing up and coming through, the people that coached in the recreation department, Dixie Youth, Pony, Babe Ruth, it was legit. And you played baseball and you played it the right way. You were taught the right way. And it was none of this, you score 5 runs this inning, well, it's over. The other team gets to come back. You played till you got 3 outs and the next team did the same thing and you learned how to play baseball. And other sports were as well. But, things have changed to be politically correct in the world today to keep kids and parents happy. More so probably the parents than the kids. They'll ask, why is my son, daughter not playing? Well, there's usually a reason. But, that's why you see the insurgence and the, this growth in travel ball and everything, softball, baseball. They even do football now. But, yeah, it was just totally different game back then.
But, Carter, we're old.
Compared to these two, yes.
But you're right. When Dixie Youth was on, we had 4 leagues. American, National, Virginia, and Dixie. But we would have a 4-league tournament at the high school. They would move the bases and everything. And the place was packed. Mm-hmm. And the winner of that went on to the state. And we were always competitive in the state. But we couldn't even draw from those other, like if you wanted, you couldn't draw from the other
teams.
Right.
And Franklin County had so many good players. But also one of the things that changed, and it had to change, I'm sure, for the money, but we would play at Callaway. We would go to Snow Creek. We'd play at Mary Elizabeth Park.
Every community had a ball field.
Every community had a ballpark. Mary Elizabeth Park, I thought that was a long ways to right field over at Creek, hit that house. Mm-hmm. It's not very far now. And we used to hit them to the tennis courts. But you went and played. The parents got to come see them, the aunts. The grandparents got to see their grandchildren play and was in their community. And you learned about the other communities in the county because Franklin County is a very diverse county.
Yeah.
A lot of just full of great people. But there's different people in Endicott than there is in Smith Mountain Lake. Different people in Boone's Mill than there are in Henry. And then you got Rocky Mount. And then they built, Buck Fielder was commissioner, old-time baseball guy, built Lark Field, one of the nicest Dixie Youth ballparks in the state.
Oh, yeah.
Lights, big bleachers,
Oh yeah.
grass infield, and it was so exciting for the young people.
Concession stand.
Yeah.
Hawkbill Hall.
Yep.
And but things had to change. They had to centrally locate it for money purposes. But I'd love to see that go back. You know, sometimes it makes a full circle. But you know, Carter talks about baseball. Well, soccer became very, very important, and soccer meets the needs for a tremendous amount of young people, and it's a great sport to play at a young age. Now they have lacrosse. They have so many other options
Yeah.
to do. Now, on the travel situation, they're still out to lunch on all this, and for what you're saying, team unity and playing together and this and that and playing great competition is good, but I'm a big believer that you shouldn't just zero in on one sport. High school athletics are so much fun. Play football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse, wrestle, do more than one, and enjoy your teammates, enjoy all of it, and because it's going to come to an end sometime.
Yeah.
And so many people, the last high school game they play is their last athletic event. Some people are very fortunate to go to college and play there, which is, you know, being a college athlete's one exciting thing to do and to be. And but a lot of college coaches, you know, 07 was my last year, but a lot of us were looking at the travel ball, and now some of them won't even take pictures that it's thrown a lot in travel ball and this and that, because they may have pitched 4 different times for 4 different showcases in 1 week.
Right.
So it just, you know, could ruin their arm.
Yeah, you got like 14-year-olds out there having Tommy John surgery now and
So
stuff.
early, and they're having like complete ACL, MCL, PCL. They're having all that stuff having to be repaired because it's like Coach Naff was saying, you spend so much time playing in that one sport that you're set on that one movement and that one movement only. But playing multiple sports is going to get you more, as far as prepared wise for your body. Your body's going to be more conditioned. You're going to have that lateral movement where you get from basketball. You're going to have, if they like playing soccer, the long running back and forth. And those kids are getting to change it up, and they get to change their routine every season. So it's not the same thing over and over and over. I'm throwing 50 pitches in bullpen, and then I'm going to go take 40 ground balls, and then I'm going to go hit BP, and then we're going to do it all over again. And next thing you know, they're tearing their elbows, they're throwing their shoulders out, and it's just not good for them. But speaking on what Carter was saying, when we grew up, the coaching was there. The Dixie Youth coaching was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I can attest for it right now. You have some great coaches there now, but it's not many. And I think that's where our rec department has fallen short a little bit. And granted, I understand that it also falls on the parents as well to come out. And, you know, for me, working 24 hours, it's tough for me to go do it for my 2 twins and then the smallest one as well. But you could tell that the coaching has, you know, it's gone to that, hey, you know, we're going to take anybody we can, whether you have baseball experience or not. And now what they're doing is they're teaching these kids, and it's not the fundamentals.
Well, what's happened in society has changed that is people don't want to put up with the parents.
Right.
They, you know, the dads or the moms that know baseball, softball, soccer, whatever sport it may be, don't want to go coach, even though their kid's playing, because they don't want to put up with the other
parents
12 sets
out
of
there.
parents.
Yep.
Because society is just different than it was back when we played. I mean, you know, Billy, I don't know if he played baseball, but back when me and CJ played, you played because you were good enough to play,
Right.
whether your dad was coaching or not. And
if you weren't playing, you
nowadays,
practice harder.
exactly. Nowadays, it's my kid is on this team. He deserves to play.
Right.
And that's where we're at as society, and that's hurt all sports, not just baseball, softball, soccer. It's everything. You got people that know nothing about baseball, softball, soccer coaching those sports.
Well, I have a experience that shows that we had sandlot football at every elementary school, and you took your pads and dressed and went to practice. And everything. I did that all through elementary school. Well, I played 30 high school football games. We won 6, so that didn't
Translate.
Yeah.
That didn't. And we had great coaches. I mean, great coaches. But this was in the 70s when everybody was together. E.C. Glass had just broken up with Heritage. E.C.
Right.
Glass was a power. Pulaski was a power. GW down. GW down beat us 63 to nothing.
I think Amherst beat us about that bad our
Amherst.
junior year.
Yep.
You know, they had Buddy Curry and Kenny Lewis Sr.,
Senior.
you know, world-class sprinter. And that's all we saw was a rear end. Martinsville had Dennis Mahan, one of the greatest backs in history of the state of Virginia. And we were just outmanned. We were not very good. We had Pee Wee Board my sophomore year. We didn't win a game. We were 0-7-3. Now, Pee Wee Board has 3 championship
Super Bowl rings.
Super Bowl rings. He's got more Super Bowl rings than he had high school wins his senior year. Think about that.
I think Jacob Gibson's probably got more Big East rings than he got wins his senior year.
What a great player.
His senior year.
You know, his dad was a great player. I don't know whether people remember that, but you know, Benny Gibson was a great high school player, but he was a great player at East Carolina too,
Yeah.
and a great football coach and a great. Our coaches were awesome. I will tell you something. Good players make good coaches. It's simple. And you know, they talk about Joe Torre. Joe Torre won all those with the Yankees, but Joe Torre never won much until he got with the Yankees. And they say, Joe, what'd you change? I didn't change anything. I got some horses that can finish a race.
Yeah.
So when we were coming through in the 70s, Miller Bennington was the head coach of our football team. I love it, man. We won 4 games. Won 2 games the year before. Coach Fouts, great man. Good football coach. We were 0-7-3 his last year. But the assistant coaches were amazing. It wasn't coaching. It was us. We identified the problem. It was us.
I think it was one of our big problems too. Is just, you know, I don't know. There was not a lot of people really didn't care that much. You know, I mean, they'd be lackadaisical in the weight room and stuff like that. And you know, we only had about 3 seniors or 4 our junior year that actually even started. And you know, he had Nat, Jacob, you know, Randy Worley running for his life back there for a minute.
Jason Purdue was still out there.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, people just, I don't know. We kind of grew up in a time period as well where video games started coming into play and kids got less and less interested in wanting to go out and play sports. And, you know, for us, that was one thing I loved about youth baseball was we did kind of have that thing where, you know, the Callaway boys were on a team, the Boone's Mill, and that's a big reason why Snow Creek was good every single year because them boys stayed together. They always played every year. You knew when you had to play them, you know, you were going to be. But Boone's Mill and Rocky Mount, sometimes they'd have so many kids, you'd have to split the teams up. They'd get diluted. So you'd have a couple good players on this one. But Glade Hill, they stuck together. They always had a pretty strong team. I love when the Glade Hill and Snow Creek guys got together because you always figure there's going to be a fight in the stands with one of them two. Because, you know, most of them are related, but not close enough to not want a fist fight over youth baseball. So,
But I was on the rec commission there for a while. And Wade Park it just bought the land. They wanted to develop that. But we had an umpire situation, you know. This was a long time ago. And I figured Underwood maybe was the recreation director. But anyway, it was talking about umpires and how you could correct it and this and that. And I said, well, let me tell you. You're not going to Virginia Tech when you go to these youth league games, you're not paying a ticket to go see someone else's son or daughter, whatever they're playing basketball. But you go to a Virginia Tech football game, you're going to watch someone else's son and pull for your team and whatever. I said, you go to these youth league games, the people that are there are moms, dads, grandparents, cousins, uncles, blood. It's blood. They don't like to see their child having a bad call on.
Mm-hmm.
And for y'all to calm down a parent when it's blood out there, it's going to be very tough to do. I said, we got to make our umpires much better. They got to show up on time. They got to look professional. They got to know the rules.
Right.
We got to pay them more to cut down on the issues.
Right.
And because most of you would probably rather deal with someone that's under the influence of alcohol than an upset parent about their son or daughter getting a bad call on.
Well, a lot of them in Franklin County probably are under the influence as well as being upset too. So,
but youth sports are great if they're done right.
Yeah,
can be very, in some situations, not very good, and young people that have some potential leave because of being upset. But athletics is one of the greatest educational tools we have if it's done correctly. You can teach a lot of lifelong lessons, and a lot of coaches try to do that. But still, winning is good. And
winning is fun.
it's fun, but the pursuit of excellence and teaching people how to win is very important because, guys, we live in a very competitive world.
Yeah.
And you got to compete every day. And athletics isn't for everyone. It just definitely isn't for everyone. But for the ones it is, it needs to be done correctly, teaching them the pursuit of excellence, teaching them how to be good teammates, never giving up, trying harder, pick yourself up, because it's hard to find that in the classroom a lot of times. But it can be taught on the athletic field. And I think it's a whole lot of good, but there can be some situations that create negative outcomes that we don't need. But I'm a big believer in youth sports. and as coaching at Fairham, I always wanted the best players from Franklin County. I wanted the best players from all the counties that surrounded Fairham. We always wanted them on campus to see. One reason, obviously, we want them. The other reason, if they signed a Division I scholarship and they went and didn't like it,
They didn't have a place to come back to. Home.
Yeah.
But you got to be very good for people to want to transfer into your place.
Yeah.
And you want to be very good so people don't transfer. But now the NCAA has screwed all that up.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
With the transfer portal and the name and likeness. And
I can't even.
I'm going to go back to something you just said. You were talking about youth sports and umpiring. I've seen you get a little heated with umpires before. I know you
Absolutely.
Except for your son Casey at Fairham, you didn't have any blood that played on the team, but I've seen you fight for those kids like they were blood.
They were like blood. They were like my children.
Any of them that stand out? Because I do have one.
No, y'all think I got thrown out in 23 years. I got thrown out 2 times at home.
I know one of them.
Now Pee Wee in the state of North Carolina, Pee Wee is 2-22. No, 22-2. He won 22 games and lost 2 because I got thrown out down there a lot.
That had to be at Methodist and
Wesley. Well, they had Frank and Jesse James umpiring. And that's not an opinion, it's a fact.
Right.
I mean, we had great hitting teams, but we had to work in batting practice with 2 strikes. We got right up on the plate, and we had to teach them how to hit a ball a foot outside.
When you went to Wesleyan, you knew what you're getting.
Oh, everything they threw was a strike, and everything we threw was a ball. We were 25-0 in '92. We got beat on. Billy struck the guy out, and we got beat on a pass ball. But they had to swing at it. They never got called out on third strike.
Right.
We hit 373 as a team in '87. We got called out 9 times on third strikes. All right, tell me your story, and I'll correct it.
It ain't much correcting. I don't know who you're playing or what was happening, but I remember you come across the infield and you met the guy at first base over there somewhere around the baseline, and you lit into him, and he listened for a little bit, and he said, "All right, I'm gonna give you a minute to get in the parking lot." And all I remember him saying is, "That gives me 59 seconds to tell you how sorry you are." But you used a little more language back then, but in that conversation. But I do distinctly remember that one. That's the only one I remember. But
I got thrown out one other time at home, and I forget. But I got thrown out twice in 23 years. But right meaning, the only good thing to ever come out of North Carolina is 220 North. But we had so much fun. But we always had a lot of support on the road. Parents would go, and they saw it too. You can ask anybody. It's not my opinion. You ask anyone that went with us, and it wasn't sour grapes because we learned to adjust to it.
You play with where you at.
Yeah,
you play within their rules.
We got them a bunch of times, and it was really good. And I had a lot of respect for Mike Fox. Mike and I coached against each other for 13 years. He ended up being the head coach at Chapel Hill. I think Tom Austin's still coaching. I hadn't seen him since '07, but I hear he's still coaching.
So when you left Franklin County, you went to Lynchburg, right?
Lynchburg College, played for Jerry Thomas.
I heard he's a great man.
Unbelievable. Great baseball guy. One of the best baseball people I ever met. Deacon of the church. Toughest son of a gun you ever played for in your life. But Steve Oakes had played there. Yeah, Steve Oakes. Y'all know Steve?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we go to church together.
Great baseball player. And he played on some great teams at Lynchburg. Mm-hmm. And here again, Jerry Thomas came to recruit Harold, found me. Harold and I traveled. We went to JMU. We went to Tech. JMU, Brad Babcock was the head coach. That's Whit Babcock's dad. They did Tech. But Babcock had been Jerry Thomas's assistant a couple of years before. But, JMU, Babcock it was one of the first male sports there. And he put them on the map, baseball. But I went to Lynchburg College. We were always ranked in the top 5 of the year. My freshman year, we would rank the number 1 team in the country. Had great players. We were probably the best team in the state of Virginia those years.
Wow.
And we were that way at Ferrum in 92, 91, 2, and 3. We were probably the best baseball team in the state of Virginia.
Yeah, y'all could have played with anybody. We won
Tech's tournament in the fall, and UVA and VCU were in that tournament, and
y'all were Division III.
Right, we didn't have any scholarships. We had guys that could play for them, and Division III baseball and Division I baseball are the closest of any of the sports. Ferrum had great football teams. They could never compete with a Virginia Tech football team.
Right.
A Division III basketball, the national champions in Division III basketball would get beat by 30.
Yeah.
Well, this was years ago. Back in the 90s, we could compete with anyone. I mean, that run we have with all those great players from Franklin County and around, we have the highest winning percentage in the history of the state of Virginia. There's no other program that won as many games as we did, percentage-wise.
So how'd you end up from Lynchburg back home here in Franklin County coaching at Ferrum?
Great story. Ferrum never had a full-time baseball coach, ever. It was usually an assistant football coach. And then they hired Rod Fridley and Preston Douglas as part-time coaches. So my senior year's over, and Coach Thomas comes to me. He said, "Hey, Ferrum's going to they're going to hire a full-time coach." I'm 21 years old. He said, "You need to apply for it." I said, Coach. He said, no, you need to go up there and apply for it. So I did. And I came in second. They hired Rick Jones.
Okay.
Well, Coach Norton hired me as an assistant football coach and assistant baseball coach for $3,000. But I could work on my master's at Radford.
Right.
And Benny Gibson and I rode up to Radford together working on our masters. But I ended up getting my master's from Lynchburg College because they liked me better down there. But anyway, Rick was there 3 years, and he went to Elon, and Coach Norton hired me. I was 24 years old. And my first spring, I was hired in the summer of '84. My first coaching was at the spring '85, and it was our last year's junior college. And we won 30 games that year. Had a bunch of good players. I mean, Ferrum always hears about Billy and Eric being in the big leagues. Well, I coached another big leaguer, Darrell Irvine, that was on my first team. And he made it up with Boston. But we had 2 or 3 guys that signed off that team, and then it happened. Then we went from junior college to 4-year, but we had a 2-year grace period before we were eligible. So 86 and 87, we couldn't go anywhere, and 87 was ranked 3rd in the country. We couldn't go anywhere. Just had to finish our season. And but all those guys at Franklin County, you can put lines over the 4 years. Every player that played at Ferrum in that time won over 100 baseball games. We were eligible for 20 regional. We went 10 times. We won 10 conference championships, and should have went to the regionals a couple more years. But the USA South was the toughest baseball conference in the country, and we just had a good run. But we had a good run because we were good locally. Had a lot of great Franklin County guys, a tremendous amount of support. Built a beautiful stadium because of it, and we were a regional and national power at that time.
Well, I know, I know a lot of people out there, of course, know Billy Wagner and Eric Owens, and even if you aren't from around here and listen to this show, you definitely know who Billy Wagner is. He's actually up for the Hall of Fame, and his percentage of voting has gotten greater every year. It looks like he should get in the next year or two, but I think that's all the eligibility he's got left, if I'm not mistaken. But as far as they're concerned, maybe some things that a lot of people don't know about him is like, for one, Billy is a natural right-handed pitcher.
Thrower,
and he broke his arm a couple times, correct? And he started to throwing a tennis ball against a barn. Now, if you can throw that fast on your wrong hand, that is dedication. I mean, but everybody knows all the hero stuff. But what was it like recruiting those 2 players for you? How did that ever come to be?
Well, Billy. I don't want to get into all the stuff, but you could read his book. And Billy had a tough childhood. He went to 9 different schools.
Yeah.
Growing up, but anyway, I'm recruiting Jeff Lamey, who is Billy's cousin, out at Tazewell. And Jeff was a great baseball player. Played 4 years for us, but he was a great punter too. I mean, he was going all over the country punting at these showcases and had special punting lessons. But anyway, I got to Tazewell and see Jeff play, and Billy's a sophomore, 130 pounds, just a good loose arm, and he could throw. So I said, Jeff, we got to get Billy. Well, in the meantime, Billy's parents just could not afford to keep Billy, so the Lamies adopted Billy. So Jack and Sally Lamey is his parents, guardians. So we recruited Billy just to come, and Jeff helped us out and this and that. And it was us and Virginia Tech, because Billy was hidden. Nobody knew about Billy. And, I mean, it's 5'8", 135 pounds. But he was 87, 88. And we get him. Long story short, we get him. And he really puts on a lot of weight, works really hard. And then the rest is history. Eric Owens, I recruited him, but football was recruiting him. His best sport was probably basketball. But Eric went to Lewisburg Junior College. We didn't get him. So he went to, but there again, Roy Clark, a good friend of mine, went to Ferrum, great scout. He said, I got 2 for you that need a place to play, and I know you'll take care of them. It was Eric Owens and Jeremy Hill. And Jeremy Hill's a pro prospect too, as an outfielder. So they both came in January, in the middle of the year. And you're talking about a different personality. Eric Owens was a very confident person. And we had him in the locker room the first day, introducing him. He sort of stood up. He said, I just want to know who the shortstop is. He said, I got the job, you might as well transfer.
And if you know him, you know he would say that.
Oh.
But he was a great teammate too. I mean, he could back it up. And he said, I'm a $15,000 man. I'm going to sign for 15. He signed for a whole lot more than that, but he ended up being National Player of the Year, 2-time All-American. Just a great player. But here's the best story on Eric Owens. He was a quarterback for the football team. Okay? They're playing the University of Alabama at Birmingham.
Yeah, that's a Division I school now.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, they're down there on Saturday. Bus down, bus back. Well, he gets back Saturday night. Here's a Division III guy. He's trying out for the United States Olympic team in Homestead, Florida. So he flies out the next day. Hadn't taken batting practice, hadn't fielded a ground ball or anything. And works out Monday, Tuesday. And he was one of the final people cut. He didn't make the Olympic team. But later on in life, my buddy comes hunting with us, Joe Carbone, who was the head baseball coach at Ohio University, was one of those coaches. He said, oh, I remember Eric. He said he was the last one cut. All right, Skip Burtman was the head coach. I said, Eric's a great one. Y'all take him. But see, I know you're not going to believe this, but being a Division III coach, but I got another one that could help our team as well as Eric Owens can. His name is Billy Wagner. So I know it's hard for y'all. Division III never got anyone that could try it.
Right.
Well, I was begging them to take Billy. There's no way they was going to take 2 from a Division
III.
Yeah. So Billy gets inducted in the College Hall of Fame at LSU. He flies me down there. Mm-hmm. One of the greatest inductions I've ever seen. But Skip Burtman was there. You know, he's retired, but he's a legend. They got statues all over the place for him. So, Coach Burtman, I know you don't remember me. There's no way you remember me, but I'm Abe Naff, and I coached at Ferrum College, and one of our former players, Eric Owens, tried out. I remember Eric. And I said, I remember the phone conversation. And Billy's here. Being inducted.
Right.
But at Ferrum, we had 2 guys try out for the United States Olympic team. And one of them wasn't Billy Wagner. It was Eric Owens and Jimmy Hamilton. Mm-hmm. And Jimmy Hamilton almost made it also.
He's in upstate Virginia, up near Harrisonburg, right?
Harrisonburg.
Yeah, Harrisonburg.
Turner
right.
Ashby.
Yep.
The day I saw him pitch, Don Statler Brothers. What's Don? Don Reed. Don Reed's son was pitching against him. Now he's a country music star. But he was a left-hander. Place was packed. And I talked to him. He was going to Vanderbilt to help his music career. And I said, well, I tell you what, if you come to Ferrum, we'll let you sing the national anthem before every game. But I got Jimmy out of it. So Jimmy Hamilton is the only baseball player to come to Ferrum that was drafted out of high school. He was drafted by the Cubs in the 25th round, and then he went with Cleveland in the 7th round after Ferrum. All the other guys had never been drafted.
Yeah, because baseball is a lot different. For everybody who don't know, it's like you can enter the draft at any point in time, and you never have to sign. You can get drafted first overall and say, I'm just going to go to college for a couple of years, but that happens quite frequently. A lot of these guys, they'll come back and get their draft. Because when you got so many draft picks, a lot of times they'll just take flyers on guys. I remember Michael Vick got drafted in about the 30th or 40th round just because said, hey, they could probably mold him if they needed to, and if nothing else, he'll sell a few tickets in the minor league park.
Right.
But Major League Baseball and college baseball have it right. You have to play 3 years of college baseball or be 21 years of age to be eligible for the draft.
What, for football, you mean?
For baseball.
I thought baseball, high schools should get drafted.
Yeah, they can.
You can.
But once you
start,
start
Gotcha.
college, it's not a one and done.
Okay.
Unless you're 21 years old. After Billy's sophomore year, his 21st, he missed being eligible for the draft like 10 or 15 days. I hated that for him. But it worked out.
It worked out.
It worked out.
He went to the Cape Cod League, and they have an all-star game, and then they pick the best prospect in the Cape Cod. He had some shortstop. All the pro scouts had picked this great shortstop, and Billy comes in to pitch in the 8th and 9th. They all tore up their ballots, and Billy was selected the best prospect in all Cape Cod.
Which is a very prestigious
It was by far the best then, but now he's being inducted into the Cape Cod Hall of Fame.
That's still probably one of the most, wooden bat college leagues. Probably the most prestigious still out there. They had the one up here on the East Coast. Isn't terrible. A lot of the Mustangs, I think, are in that league, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. There's always some pretty good baseball down there, and the Dollar Beer Night's a lot better than the one in Salem because the beers are a lot bigger down in Martinsville. So I always enjoy watching them play because Casey Hodges played in that league for a while. Yeah, that's another one from Franklin County. He
won
got
a national
drafted.
championship.
Sure did.
Yep.
Mount Olive.
Yep.
We used to play Mount Olive when they were junior college.
That's a good program.
Pickles, down at the Pickle. Mount Olive Pickles.
Casey
was a great Casey.
Is that their mascot, a pickle?
No.
Oh.
That's where they canned the pickles.
I think he could have had a chance to. Casey would have went a lot further. Circumstances just didn't quite work out for him. He got drafted at a little bit older age than most guys do when they're pitchers, and didn't start. And then he had the unfortunate being drafted, I think, with Venters and Craig Kimbrell in the same draft class and stuff for Atlanta. So, but I mean, at the end of the day, he still got to play baseball and get paid for it. And that national title game was something we were buddies with him back in and said, all right, if you go to the World Series this year, we'll all drive out to St. Louis and we'll go watch the game. It was in Sauget, Illinois, right outside St. Louis. And I mean, we didn't really know if he'd do it or not. Didn't think about it, and I completely forgot about it. Get a phone call at the end of the school year. One of my buddies said, all right. He said, we got to go out to St. Louis. And this is back when that one time period where gas prices were like $4.15, $4.30 a gallon, like in 08 or 09. And we were so broke and so poor that we just had just enough money to get out there on gas, buy a hotel room, and eat. Anything we did, we had to do free. We went to the Arch, looked at that because it was free. Went to the Budweiser factory because they gave free tours and 2 free beers at the end. And we drove all the way out there 13 hours to watch him pitch about 5 innings, and then it rained it out, and we missed. That's about all we got to see. And then, of course, we drove back that night after the game, and the following week got to watch it on CBS Sports. They actually televised us. We all circled around on TV, and, man, he pitched a gem that game if you didn't get a chance to watch it. And, yeah, won a national title. It's another one this county can hang their hat on. And
all right, now, y'all big race people. When Pee Wee Board got inducted into High School Hall of Fame, Pete Wright introduced him. Y'all remember Pete Wright?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Crew chief, won the championship with Terry Labonte.
Terry Labonte.
So there was 2 guys with national championships.
Right there
If I'm not
together.
mistaken, Pete's still in the NASCAR circuit working for somebody.
I hope so. He's such a good person.
I think he is.
CJ, you still waiting on your invite to the Franklin County Hall of Fame?
It's probably not coming.
Well, hey, we got 2 most athletic right here voted by their senior class.
Yeah.
So I think that alone should probably get you inducted in the Hall of Fame. Just out of, I don't think my defensive tackle skill from 2 years. I don't think those stats are going to hold up. And
I think I only still hold one record for Franklin County baseball, and that was 7 for 7
Wow.
in one game.
no, my uncle set some records. I think he had a state record for interceptions in a year, and then come back next year broke his own record, like 11 and 13. He intercepted Cave Spring 4 times in one game.
Oh, wow.
Dude, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm more aware of that story because I think my old man jumped the fence and tried to fight one of the Cave Spring players, than I am the fact that my uncle broke the record. But
Well, that was a heated rivalry back in the day, us and Cave Spring.
it was heated up until we
Even
we
when
left
we
out,
went- yeah.
Yeah.
and then Hidden Valley came around and kind of split it up.
And they always split them up. Yep.
And I can't
It was
even
back
keep-
when Tyler Lumsden. That's who we faced. We had Tyler Lumsden who went to Clemson,
Oh, yeah.
and then he played a lot of ball over in Japan for a long time, and then came back. He's back over here now.
He just got inducted into the Salem.
He did. Yep, to Salem.
He didn't know whether he was. They called and said they're going to induct him in the Hall of Fame. He said for basketball or baseball. You know,
He was
a
a
great.
really good basketball
Yeah, he and
player.
JJ were on the same
and he
team.
got shadowed by JJ.
Yeah, overshadowed.
Yeah,
It's-
overshadowed. Yeah.
He could play.
Yep.
You
Tyler-
got
Tyler was
inducted into
good.
the Franklin County Hall of Fame 2 years ago?
The what?
You got inducted 2 years ago, right?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to keep up anymore with little ones and stuff. When mine get to be
I
old
know.
enough to be able to want to take up there to the game, but I don't even. Back then it was simple. You had your districts. Nowadays they got the districts mixed up. You got AAA mixed with AA. At least last time I was looking, like we were in the Blue Ridge district with a bunch of AA schools a few years ago. So I mean, it's hard. You know, them playing Lynchburg Christian. We were talking about the other day. Like, if you say any Christian or any private school, I'm thinking you should wipe the floor with them. You know, because North Cross, you put North Cross out there against Fleming, they'll be up 100-0.
Right.
But I don't understand how LCA can play and still recruit. I mean, they get players from all over the area. Well, I guess Salem does it too. So, but they're a private school,
Yeah.
Right.
and can get athletes from anywhere. Really. And,
Well, the problem is, I mean, you're talking about us being a 6A school. There's none around here. The rest of them are in Northern Virginia at the beach.
Yeah.
we're the
you know.
largest school west of Charlottesville.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't, for one, you don't get that competition. You don't get to play those. So when you do make the playoffs, you're generally, you're unaware of like, hey, well, this team's got talent on both sides of the ball, and they're not having to play both sides of the ball. So it is kind of a shock when you get up there. But it's still you would think, still being a school that big though, we would at least dominate in all the rest of the sports like basketball and baseball and all that kind of stuff. It's just weird how this kind of stuff works. Some places they're bigger on it, and some places aren't so much. But we do have hellacious athletes in this area.
Yeah.
Carter, I know I've missed someone, and it's your fault
How's it my fault?
if I've hurt someone's feelings, and I forget things. But,
Well, one you didn't mention was your own son that went to
Yeah.
came to Fair and played
yeah,
for
he
you.
played-
Followed in your
No,
footsteps.
He didn't play for me.
Oh, he didn't.
No, I retired in
You
07.
retired. Okay.
He played for Darren and Brittle.
Okay.
Well, who else? We kind of get even away from Franklin County. Oh, actually, here's what I wanted to ask you. You come into Ferrum around the time Hank Norton was kind of winding up his career. Tell us a little bit about Hank Norton. What kind of a guy was he?
See, I was fortunate. I spent more time with Hank Norton than any of his assistants. We were close. He just an unbelievable person. Loved Ferrum. That was contagious. I loved Ferrum. Most of the coaches that, we didn't make any money, but we loved it. We did it because we loved the place, and Coach Norton could have gone some other places, but he just loved Ferrum College. An offensive genius, but between the tackles. He would bring in guys that knew the perimeter and, open it up. But he was a wishbone guy. He was a Bear Bryant guy. And
two national championships, too,
4.
right? 4.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he won 4.
65, 68, 74, and 78. All those junior colleges. And then played down at the high school in the quarterfinals and got beat. This is in Division III when we had Chris Warren and Freddie Stovall. Fumbled the ball 9 times, 9 turnovers.
Shoot.
And lost by 7.
Oh.
You only turn up half that and you win the game.
Yeah.
Right. But back in the 90s, we would recruit football. Eric and Billy both played football. Gerald and Joe. We had 9 guys playing football one time on our baseball team. So we could recruit Division I type athletes, and you have a chance to win a national championship in both sports.
Both sports, yeah.
The place was booming.
Yeah.
And but Coach Norton was just an unbelievable storyteller. Could have been a comedian and made millions, but he was a great football coach. Some of the best coaches in the country would call in there and ask opinions.
Mm-hmm.
When he passed away, I called Danny Ford to let him know, and Danny Ford and I talked for 15 minutes. Danny Ford didn't know me from Adam, but he knew Coach Norton, and I knew they were good friends. And I'd met Danny Ford one time, but so many coaches knew him throughout the country. And when Ferrum was a junior college, all those coaches would come in. They were assistant coaches, but they ended up being
Right.
some of the head coaches now, making all the big money, and I got to meet those. But a great football coach, great recruiter. But the main thing, he loved Ferrum just like I did. He taught us that, and just a great place, and he made it that way. But he could tell stories better than anyone I know. That's a couple things that no one knows about Coach Norton. He can sing every fight song to every college there is.
No kidding.
We would sit there, W&L, Randolph, Macon, Hampton, Sydney, New Mexico, Oklahoma. He'd go off. He could sing them all.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Now, we'd come up with some off the wall, like Hawaii. Well, he'd start saying, well, we didn't know the difference. We didn't know where this singing right or wrong. But he could do that. And the other thing, he was a great swimmer. I was his lifeguard. I'd go down there and watch him swim. But he could go up and back of that pool underwater.
Really?
Up and back.
That's fascinating.
That's good lungs right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that people know about this, y'all know he's a master fly fisherman.
Oh, yeah.
And he would go out and do fly fishing shows and stuff like that. But he taught angling class. That was one of the hardest classes at Ferrum because you had to know the Latin names of brim and walleye, and trout, but they would fly fish in the gym, and he would put a ashtray or a hat out in the gym, and he'd put that fly right in that hat.
Every time.
That's talent.
If anybody had a cigarette, he'd make them put a cigarette in their mouth. He'd wrap it around that cigarette.
I've seen him do that.
That's unbelievable. And is it weird just how the sometimes the greatest at something just have that little quirk? I mean, it's something they can always do that you would never expect that they can do. And I guess all the greats just have quirks like that just separate them, make them different.
But he was an environmentalist, conservationist. He was so concerned about the Smith River. He talked about the Smith River having the greatest water in the state of Virginia, and it needs to keep clean, and loved the rivers. And he would get to first team meeting might be about the migration of the eel that was stopped because of Smith Mountain Lake.
all into that stuff.
And he would give the talk about Franklin County. Over here in Callaway, you got the dairy farmers. Down towards Snow Creek, you got the hardest working people there is with that tobacco, pulling tobacco so hard. You got the town seat of Rocky Mount. Down in Henry, they all go down to Bassett and do furniture and textiles. And then you got the good old boys up here at Endicott that make their living in the woods. And they're good people. They have to do that, but they're good people.
Of course, he's talking about them stills off in the holler. Absolutely.
But, that was why Ferrum was so good. And it's about the people. We had a lot of people up there that loved the college and worked hard and tried to make the athletic programs the best it could be because it could really help the college and being an enrollment driver.
I think that time period, in the early 90s really screwed me up as a kid because, and CJ can tell you because here we are going to school and all we know is shoot every time you turn around as a Ferrum player, it's on ESPN or a Ferrum player, it's on doing this and it's like, well, we just go right up the road here and go to school. We got a chance at going pro too. When you're a kid, that's just how your mind thinks. Of course, you have to work so hard and to be able to make the pros is one thing. To come do it from a D3 level, and that's not to take anything away from their talent. It's just how you're going to be perceived. So you have to go out of your way also to impress those guys because they don't want to take a shot on you. Like Coach was talking about earlier. It's so it did. It spoiled us. We go up to Ferrum baseball camp. Oh, well, here's Darren Hodges and Billy Wagner and Eric Owens, and then you got Chris Warren out there. And did he ever play any baseball while he was there?
Well, you remember when Chris was there, that's when Deion Sanders was coming out and he was a two-sport star. Right. I said, Chris, all the NFL scouts were coming in. I said, Chris, just come out and run bases.
That's it.
Pinch run. And we can tell them you're a two-sport star and they'll up your ante.
Didn't work out.
He didn't. They were so busy trying him out that he couldn't have done it anyway.
Well, he was a man among boys at D3 and at Ferrum.
Talk about him for a minute because we were so young.
Yeah, there's some highlights. You can find some videos on YouTube and things, but to watch him play at Ferrum, Abe knows a lot more than I do. But I was young when he was there, but I can just remember the days his fullback Freddie Stovall played for Abe, and them two, the combination of them two in the backfield,
both of them All-Americans,
unbelievable.
Chris Warren. He went to University of Virginia, and everybody says he flunked out. He did not flunk out.
Right. They don't know the story.
They don't know the whole story. He made a D in Greek mythology.
I probably would have too.
Absolutely. I would have never taken Greek.
I wouldn't make a D today, probably.
That made him ineligible to play at the University of Virginia. Well, he could have transferred to Michigan, Penn State, some of the other ones, and he was automatically eligible. Well, he chose Ferrum. Well, after he dominated, they made the Chris Warren rule. This is the truth. The NCAA made the Chris Warren rule that you have to be eligible to play at the institution you left from.
To go
play somewhere else immediately.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
He's probably I guess there's a few. There was the one kid who came out for Mount Union not too long ago. He was it Pierre Garçon? I think he played at Mount Union for quite a while. But you're talking about a Division III school that wins a national title every year. There should be a couple that come out of there, but have one of the dominating people like Chris Warren. That was like I said, y'all
a three-time Pro Bowler but a great person, a great guy. Non-assuming. Now it was the debate because Eric was there at the same time. It was the debate who was the best athlete. Chris Warren, Eric Owens, and Coach Norton said Eric Owens, no question. And Chris Warren was an unbelievable athlete.
Right. Oh, he was a specimen back in the day.
But Eric was so fast. Going back to Eric, he was the fastest hitter, right-hand hitter in the National League when he played for San Diego from home to first. Now think about how fast that is.
Oh, yeah.
We went to Florida, took our team to Florida. We stopped by Cincinnati's training facility. He brought Barry Larkin over to meet us. But we watched the game. Eric Owens was in center field. Ken Griffey Jr. was in right field. And Deion Sanders was in left field.
That's pretty sweet.
Now, y'all see Coach Prime. Eric Owens said Deion was one of the best teammates he ever had. Now, y'all wouldn't think that either, as self-centered as he is.
Right.
But getting back to it, we've been rambling.
No, this is
Great
what we
team.
like, man. He's a great,
Great, teammates. And in athletics, it's so much about the relationships. My former players have been so good to me here in the last couple years because of our great relationships, and they mean so much to me.
Well,
And it's always good to hear good things when they're calling about their grandchildren.
Well,
Makes me feel awful.
You asked me, did we miss any Frank County players? We'd be remiss. I know. I thought of one just now. I don't think he was there long, but Greg Perdue that came.
Oh,
he was
absolutely.
graduated with me. Franklin County came up. And
Nicest family.
Very
there
tragic
is.
accident took his life.
Greg was going to be such a good player, tall right-handed pitcher. Saddest. I've had 3 former players pass away.
But he was the only one that was
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Very tragic.
His teammates loved him so much.
That was the spring of his freshman year, wasn't it?
Yeah, we played CNU that Saturday. We were supposed to play him Sunday. We canceled. Obviously, we canceled. That's always sad seems.
Yeah, but I thought we'd be remiss if we didn't
Absolutely.
bring him up. mention
Absolutely.
him.
I see. I don't recall him.
It's Danny Perdue that owns the
Okay.
convenience stores. It's his
Okay,
son.
there
We
you go.
graduated
Now-
together in
now it's-
'93.
Now I know who you're talking
Just a
about.
fine young man.
Great friend, loved by many.
Great, just another great teammate.
Kind of sounds a lot like Matt Nichols. Same thing.
Very similar.
You know, talk about a heck of a ball player.
Yeah.
He was a beast. I remember him coming into the weight room as an 8th grader, so just tiny. I was like, what's this kid doing? And then I get on from my rack and I see him at night and I'm looking up at him. I'm like, good Lord, son. I said, they've been feeding you corn right on cue, and he could have balled me up if he wanted to at that point in time. I was glad to see, people like that. It's
Now, if y'all want a guy that can really tell you about Franklin County athletics, is the old band director, Carlton Wilkes.
we've had him on before.
He
Of
knows.
course, we talked a lot more about music, but he's a good statistician, though.
Oh,
We kind
well,
of should
he
bring
just
him on
come out
for
with a
that as
book.
well.
Yeah,
A stat book.
and then he can tell y'all. They can all tell you about Bill Davis and Marshall Floor. And I remember this was way back. I remember because my uncle was in the backfield. Marshall Floor, David Gruber, Charles Hunt, and Ron Hodges was a quarterback.
Charles Hunt.
Ron played in the big leagues. Marshall was the first All-American around here at Bridgewater College, bowling ball. What was the great running back at Tech that broke his record for the most yards rushing years ago?
Lisa broke. He holds the Tech rushing record.
Holds the state of Virginia. Rushed it. Marshall held the,
Julius Jones or Thomas Jones, maybe.
He was a Tech runner. But
And so-
Marshall owned the record for years.
In the state of Virginia.
Yeah. And Bill, and everybody knows Bill Davis was a great,
Great athlete.
he ruled VMI. That's when VMI would beat Tech.
Kevin Jones, you're thinking about, Billy.
Kevin Jones.
Yeah.
But he didn't play in Virginia.
No.
The one kid down in from Danville did come in right after him.
Kenny Lewis.
There you go.
Now, I remember him at baseball camp, coming to baseball camp at Fairham.
Ran a 6.60 at 12 years old.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And great dad. Kenny Lewis Sr. was and he just ran all over us, but he was a good man. He ended up being in administration down at Danville, principal, and just does so much work down there for the.
They've had some good football players come out. Of course, they got 3 in the NFL right now with the Edmonds brothers. All them in.
Well, Buddy Curry was a linebacker for the Atlanta Falcons for a year. He's lined up against me. I was supposed to block. I don't think I ever touched him. I shook his hand. I shook his hand at a celebrity golf tournament one time just so I could tell him I finally hit him.
Got him.
And that's like me when I played against the Barber twins, and they wouldn't know.
Who's the leading rusher in the state of Virginia?
I was trying to find it here, and I don't recognize none of these names. Wesley Cox. I think this is going down by year. No, Lee Suggs in 97.
But I know Marshall held it for a while, and
here we go.
Little All-Americans is what they call
Terry Kirby. Terry Kirby has the record.
Okay.
O.J. Thomason.
He's a Bird, probably.
Yeah, he went to
OJ was
Bird.
when we
were playing. Yeah, he's got the state rushing record at 7,536.
Wow.
Kirby, Thomas Jones. Trying to find one of these Tech players. Oh, God, what's some names on this list? So Tiki and Rondi, what were they like in school?
Oh, great kids. I mean, I didn't. Of course, we were Roanoke Valley District. Cave Spring was our biggest rival, but
Right.
They were super nice kids. They were just heads and shoulders above anybody else. They're the fastest.
So you could
kids
tell
ever.
they were going places even in high
yeah.
school.
I mean, they were state track champions. They were great athletes all around. I remember one time this was early on, like in JV, we were trying to block them, and I had to block one of them, and I pulled out and went to block for Ryan Montgomery, who was Tony Montgomery's one of the well-known quarterbacks of Rankin County.
Right, there's another great athlete.
Ryan, his younger brother, was blocking for him, and whichever one it was, Tiki, Ron, I never saw him coming. He run right over me, and I asked what the number of that train was because you don't know. I mean, they were so fast.
Yeah. Lee
didn't
Suggs
have
was
anybody
like
to
that in
compete.
high school. I mean, I guess out of the people we played, Suggs.
Jermaine Hardy.
Jermaine Hardy was a badass. I think he went on to play D1 ball somewhere.
He went to UVA.
Mike-
And he got
Went to Marshall.
drafted by Carolina.
Really?
Yeah, he was a sheriff in Roanoke for a while.
Huh.
Played with the Rampage with me, with the NPSFL, the National Public Safety Football League. Played that for a little while.
That's a league you go out to getting pads and hit cops.
You
I
get
told
that-
CJ, I said, I just want to join up on that
Dude,
one to bust y'all up.
It was. I did it for 2 years.
They'd
It was
kill me.
really fun. You just play other public safety people, from around the whole U.S. It's pretty fun. It was a good time. It was good to be older and be able to. Because in high school I was 155 pounds.
Yeah.
After I got finished with rookie school and stayed there, I put on weight and started lifting more and lifting heavier because we had. In my rookie school was Kareem Thomas, and Kareem Thomas was when he was coming up, when Michael Vick was coming up, he played at Pitt, and Kareem was from Northside. And that was one of his favorite things. He's got highlight videos all over. And he was still trying out for the Columbine while we were in rookie school. And but he really helped me put on some weight, and it was really fun to be able to put pads back on when you're older. A little bit more. You feel like you're a little bit stronger. But we played against this. We go to Carolina, come up here, and there's a guy who got dropped by the Panthers, and when he got dropped by the Panthers, he just went and became a police officer. And now he's playing in NPSFL, and me, high school was as far as I went, and here I am running from him, and he goes, "Gotcha." Next play, got you.
Right.
Next play, again, gotcha. I was like, "Buddy, I get it. You're awesome. Thanks. You hit me hard." But yeah, that was fun. But yeah, we played against a lot of good people.
I think Michael Hamler played for Cave. He went on to Wake
Hamler.
Forest. And then, of course, Pulaski, they just always had good, but I don't think none of them can ever make it out of there. Pulaski is one of those places it's just hard to get away from. A lot of trouble, a lot of people just.
But you talk about that. Salem's had such a great run, Andrew Lewis saying. But very seldom do you see a high Division I sign come out of Salem. They've had some.
Right.
But they're just great teammates, they run
play
the
well
system,
together.
play well together, and that. But talking about Tiki and Ronnie, Jerry Little was coaching them at that time.
Okay.
Jerry Little was a longtime assistant at Ferrum. Jerry Little was involved in 3 of the national championships at Ferrum. He played on the 65 team. He coached on the 68 team and the 74 team.
Yeah, Jerry was our head coach in high school. I think we got him towards the time in his career. I don't think he really cared as much anymore. I don't know why.
He was still ADing too.
Yeah, and he took over for Horace Green,
Yep.
and I think only had intentions of staying for a couple of years. And that's one of the few times that
But his son was still there because we graduated.
I
with
think
his
that was
son.
it could have been a
That
big
was
reason
another
why he stuck because
Yeah.
his first full year, man, that's when they had a squad. That's when they had Bobby Basham at quarterback.
Yep.
You know, they had pretty big guys on the line. You know, Jamie Tuck out there playing.
Tuck was out there. Gibsons were out there.
Yeah,
Alex Hunt.
Yeah, Alex
Alex
was.
Hunt graduated with us.
Yeah, so
He's a
we
pretty
had-
good player.
Yeah, he was
That's
real
what
good.
You may remind me of him when you said Charles Hunt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alex, I love him. Still see him every now and then, and you know he was a little beast out there. We had a really good senior team, but you know we were just not a lot of cohesion. We didn't all play together until we got to be sophomores, and then we did really good actually. To be the first time our JV squad had a winning record, and then the next year I think Amherst scored more points against us in one game than we scored all season long, and every single week we would lose. And then the next week, we would adopt the team that just beat us as offense. So when you're trying to change an offense every single week,
It was. Every single
yeah, then
time.
you can't really get any kind of thing going. And it was just
But y'all were still a big improvement from 77 when I played. Our team played in 6 homecoming games, ours and 5 other ones.
so did we. Yep, that
would-
was our junior year.
We would go to some school's opener. It's homecoming
Yeah,
because we were playing Franklin
Because you're
County.
playing, yep.
I mean, even today, the team this year is doing well record-wise. They seem to play well together, but there's 28, 29 kids out there in a school with 2,500.
Right.
You know, I don't know why it doesn't translate and you can't get them to play and show up. But I think, less than 30, I guarantee it.
it takes work to football, and I just don't know if this generation is interested in work as much as older because they don't have to. You know, older generations knew. You know, if you wanted to go play sports, you had to chop the wood, you had to cut the grass, you had to pick up the hay, whatever you had to do before you did that. So they'd also put in the extra effort if they were going to do anything. Well, nowadays kids don't, it's just a culture thing. I don't think they're conditioned to want to work. And to be good at football or any sport, you really have to work. And football's extra hard, whereas, I'm trying to think of another sport, but where you don't have to put on. I mean, I guess any of them, you don't have to go out there in the two days heat. And,
But I'll tell you, our philosophy was we wanted players that love to practice and hate to lose. Well, baseball practice is fun.
yeah,
Football practice is not fun.
no,
Even great football players don't like to practice football.
Right.
I mean, it's tough.
Yep.
It's tough. And there's a lot of other things to be doing now than playing. Because you got to be dedicated, committed.
Yes.
And,
well, plus all the concussion stuff's come out now, and you kind of see what's happening to their brains, getting, even in high school, and that's something I always, when it first started coming out, say I don't care about all that. But then you get kids, and you're like, well, all it takes is one wrong hit, and it's been shown some of these people could be messed up for life, and you really have to think twice about that. So I guess a lot of parents really are concerned with that. Maybe some kids don't want to get hit or don't like getting hit, and it makes it really difficult to. But like I said, I don't know. Franklin County has just always been a bunch of tough boys. Even with 29 and 28 out there, they can still go out there and win.
Absolutely. But you know what sport has a very, very high concussion percentage?
Soccer, doesn't it?
Women's soccer.
Yep.
Women's soccer.
You want another interesting stat?
Sure.
Do you know what group of NCAA athletes bet more often?
I'm betting it's a woman's
I'd say
sport.
kickers in football.
Division III golfers.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But now they can all bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rules have changed so much now with this
Well, even-
NIL and everything going
Even
on.
being
It's
sponsored
crazy.
now in college.
Yeah.
Be
Isn't that
sponsored.
ridiculous? Y'all listen to all that Southeastern Conference interviews and stuff on YouTube.
I'll be honest with you, I don't even pay attention to college football anymore. I can't. It's hard to keep up. I like watching a team grow for 4 years, and now they're all gone through the transfer portal, and,
But they're saying in the Southeastern Conference with its name and likeness, they're just making it legal, what they've been doing for years.
years.
Oh, exactly.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
What
Now
they've
it's
been paying
legal.
people for years, now it's
Yeah.
legal.
Yeah.
What'd Bo Jackson say when they tried to get him to go to pro? He said, "I can't take a pay cut." This was back in the day.
They're always good about that stuff too, and it is what it is. But I don't know. I think the transfer portal really did it. Because, even when you're getting paid, you're getting paid to go to some of these schools. You know what's going on anyway. But now when you're able to just go back and forth, and if you don't like it here, you don't like this coach, and you just quit, and guys don't stick around. And
Well, they play for 3 or 4 different schools in a 4-year period.
yeah, I mean, everybody, ODU beat Tech to start the season out. And I know a lot of people are sitting there thinking, well, that's pretty pitiful because ODU hadn't been D1 but for a handful of years. Well, I think 10 of their 11 starters were SEC transfers. So, I mean, it's not like
Right.
some of these guys just go.
Well, how about the quarterback at Tennessee?
At Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean, he might win the Heisman.
Heisman hopeful.
And
Really?
he couldn't start at Tech.
Yeah.
Who?
Hendon Hooker?
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there during the Fuente years.
I remember that. I mean, he started a few games, but
Oh, yeah.
and he's a Heisman hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How in the world did that happen?
Well,
If
they
he
got
beats
Tennessee-
Alabama this weekend,
He will
he
be.
will win the Heisman, I believe. They're undefeated. He's
6-0
Oh, yeah.
or 5-0.
They beat the brakes off
He is-
LSU
and
Saturday.
he's putting up some numbers too. That
Oh,
dude
yeah.
is-
Throwing the ball?
Yeah.
Yeah, they say he's the
Yeah.
most potent offense in college
College football right now.
Man, what in the world was Fuente smoking when he was up there?
Well, he
To
had
miss
2
out on
horses.
that.
He had him and Quincy Patterson.
Yeah.
And, at Tech, you're not in Alabama, you're not in LSU, you're not in Georgia. It's hard to keep 2 guys like that happy.
Yeah.
And you really can't put them on the field at the same time. They're both quarterbacks unless you move one, and one's willing to move to another position. And I'm assuming that didn't happen. And, I always thought it'd be great to see one of them as a quarterback, one of them as a tailback.
Yeah.
But, if you want to be a quarterback, you're going to be a quarterback.
Yes.
But with that transfer portal, it used to be the disgruntled guy.
Left.
Like if you pinch hit for him, he's in the portal that night, or you take him out. But now it's the great players that are putting themselves in the portal to see how much money they could get.
Yeah. How their
business.
stock
Right.
could rise. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm only making $1 million.
Yeah.
Will you give me 2?
Yeah.
And some of them will. Lane Kiffin said there's 2 high school quarterbacks making over $1 million right now.
I didn't think. Can somebody explain to me how this is working? Because I don't really understand how they're getting paid. I thought maybe they were going to be getting a stipend or something, from each school, maybe $30,000 or something. But the kids are actually making. How are they making millions? How's this happening?
The
What-
donor gives them $1 million.
They signed that NIL contract, and they're able to give them. Like there's several on the Tech team that are under a contract with a technology company in Blacksburg that they're paying. It's not the school. It's
They say Texas A&M spent over $30 million on this recruiting class for name and likeness.
Wow.
That's why he and Nick Saban got in such a big argument.
So I hadn't kept up. I didn't realize it was
I didn't know
to
it was
that degree.
much. That's a lot.
But it's worse than the NFL, and this is what the guy at Mississippi is saying. We don't have a salary cap. We don't have
Right. There's no cap on
There's
it.
no
Right.
cap,
Mhm.
and anybody can make whatever they want, and they're free agents all the time.
Yes, I didn't think about it like that. That makes total sense. But yeah, because if you're playing for UVA and you become an All-American, why wouldn't you want to go to Alabama where your draft stock will go up and you get more money? I mean, yeah.
But they say Arch Manning got $650,000 to go to Texas. I thought that was awful cheap.
You would think. Well, because the name Manning alone is going to sell enough
Right.
Right.
T-shirts to be able to make that money up.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, it's like I said, I don't keep up as much. I still enjoy watching college basketball because I think there's something still really unique and special about the tournament, even though they keep adding teams. But, when you can get like a VCU or a George Mason or somebody to make a nice run into the Final Four and just give the little guys a chance, I enjoy that. And I enjoy the baseball. But
or you can get a little school out of Maryland to knock off UVA in the first round.
yeah, and every time you say that, UVA fan will say, we got that national championship. I say a lot of teams have won a national championship. Only one number 16 seed has beat a number 1 seed. That's only happened once. I said, people forget about that national title. They'll never forget about that.
Never.
So, yeah, I enjoy that.
Hey, I pull for the state of Virginia. I think Liberty University might be the best football team in the state this year.
They very well may be. Between them and JMU.
The JMU D1 yet, or are they still D1 2A?
They're still in the lower.
Yeah, they're still in the lower.
So they still okay.
I think.
I thought they were planning on making a move upwards.
I think they did. That's right, they did.
They did. Yeah, about 2 years ago, I think.
Huh, so they're no longer in Division 1 2A. Let's see. Wonder what conference are they in? Sun Belt. Sun Belt takes every dang team that comes out first.
Yeah.
Seriously, they'll play in the Sun Belt 2 or 3 years. It's like a feeder conference, and then they'll work their way up.
Yeah.
But for the state of Virginia to do better, they cannot allow Penn State to come in and get 8 or 10 players.
Right.
You know, Anthony Poindexter, the great player from UVA, is a recruiting guy in Virginia for Penn State, and
He's wearing them out.
wearing them out.
Yeah.
His brother John played for us. You talking about a great family. That's good people.
Yeah.
They're from Jefferson Forest.
Holy hell. JMU's ranked in the top 25. They're 25th in the country.
They beat Appalachian State, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
They're in the Sun Belt, sure enough.
Okay.
It never fails. Well, I tell you what, gentlemen, we've kept y'all here quite a bit of time. I know y'all probably got places to go and things to do, and we could probably sit here and talk for hours and hours. And there's so many we didn't even get. I mean, Jeff King, he was not very athletic, that you would think. He ended up going on and playing 5 or 6 years in the NFL. I mean, Pulaski, just a big, strong guy that worked his hind end off. I mean, I love to get y'all back on here and talk about this a little more. You know, when Abe comes on, you're starting naming names off like Gilmore that you'd love to come talk to and pick his brain. I mean, just the amount of success that this area has seen is just, I mean, it's unparalleled, really, when you think about it, given the circumstances. Just a bunch of old poor country boys that managed to come out here and outwork everybody else. So I did want to ask you before we got out here, CJ, like, you know, you have a couple kids now coming up in the youth programs. You know, what do you see? And I mean, they do have like, do they have like traveling sports and all sports now for kids your age?
So they've started, Sandlot was a program started, I think it's almost 8 or 9 years ago. So Smith Mountain Lake Sandlot started, and they had a core group, and they went all the way through, and I think their kids are like 14, 15 years old now. So they're getting ready to hit high school and play JV and varsity. And I think most of them who did play with them is actually playing in that right now. But now they've got other sales coming off of Sandlot. Like my boys play in the 10U, and then there's an 8U and a 9U team as well. And it seems to stint from they ran into a lot of coaching issues where we just didn't have enough coaches for rec. And then when they, you know, and I understand it's tough because you run into that problem where you're not coaching kids, you're coaching their parents because their parents are it's insane. Going out to rec ball and just watching and just sitting back and listening, it's rough. It's rough. And you know, I wish there was a way to shut that down and calm it down. And I'd love to see our rec department get better and go forward and actually maybe even turn away from Dixie Youth and go to maybe Little League and actually move into trying to put together a team, because there's great talent at that level. And when those kids get 10 or 12 and 11 years old, or 11 and 12 years old, when they can actually play in the Little League and maybe go further, you have a set group of kids and do an American League and National League like what we had, and how you guys had the American National Dixie and everything.
Virginia.
Yeah. But to be able to do something like that and put that core group of kids together through rec and to have something to where we could, as a community, go and see how far they could go in Little League and maybe go to the Little League World Series or see that point. But for us, and for what I wanted for my kids, Sandlot turned out to be the best pick for us. And they love it. We practice twice a week now. They've got a wooden bat tournament coming up, and I think it's going to be the last one they're going to play in the fall this year before we shut it down. And my boys, they love basketball. They want to start playing football. So for me, if they want to play baseball and they want to play competitively, then they know there's work that's got to be done. But for rec, it's really, for our rec department, we really need to, there's a disconnect between what the kids need, what the coaches can do, and what we want to see come out of it.
And then what the rec department will allow them to do.
Right.
There's a major disconnect.
Yeah. And so, and like I said, I would, you know, I'd love to help out, but for me and what I do for my job, and I can't, if I work Saturday, I work 3 Saturdays in a row. That's 3 Saturdays I'm away from those kids, and that's not what they need. They need that support there every single practice, every single game, and I just can't do that. So Sandlot turns out to be a good for us, and I really think their program's getting better going through, It just, it's one of those things. When you start something like that, you can take 12 kids and turn them into great ball players, but you have to have 12 great sets of parents.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes in. For me, with rec and travel, it doesn't make a difference. You can take 12 great kids and turn them into great athletes as long as you start at that base level altogether. But the minute you add the parents into that play, it's tough.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, my son played in the Super Bowl years ago, and they won. Bill Corn, to your age? Mm-hmm. Bill Corn played at VMI, was the head coach, and they practiced extra points all the time.
Nobody can do them.
We won the Super Bowl 3-0.
Yeah, they all go for two because they don't have anybody to kick. They don't work on it.
Right.
Well, we won the Super Bowl, and that was one of the most exciting athletic events I've ever witnessed in my life.
Oh yeah, it's fun to go watch
Casey
those
was
little
8 or
kids.
9.
And
So I wish you the best of luck
Yeah.
with that.
Thank you.
We live in a great county, and we got great people in it, and I hope the youth is our future.
Yep.
So the more
Absolutely.
we can do for them, the better off we all are, and I hope it works out.
Yes, sir.
And,
Well, I hope a lot of people listen to this show and, they got younger kids, remind them, hey, look, listen to this. There's a lot of athletes that come out of this neck of the wood. You can do it. You just got to put, you got to put that extra little
There's
bit of effort into
opportunities.
it.
You just got to be willing to work for it and put in a little effort and go find it. I mean, sometimes it doesn't find you. You need to go find it.
Yeah.
we would tell our players, I want you to work hard, do the hardest work you can, do extra. And if you do that, that's not going to guarantee you a chance to be a pro player. But if you don't do it, you'll never have that
It'll
chance.
guarantee you won't.
Yeah. The only chance you miss is the opportunity you miss is the ones you don't take.
The one
So,
you don't take.
Yep. Well, gentlemen, we appreciate you again. For anybody listening, you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Appalachian Podcast. Go subscribe to our Patreon because this show's probably going to be on our Patreon for a couple weeks before we release it because we got a couple in the backlog. You want to hear it right away, $3 a month. Supports us, supports local. We can get out here and tell more of these stories because I know Franklin County, y'all love it. Y'all have enjoyed, we put on here in the last few weeks, and we certainly appreciate all the support we got. So that's patreon.com/Appalachian Podcast. And Coach Naff, we got to get you and Carter back on at some point in time. Just because I know we didn't even scratch the surface here. I mean, there's so much more to talk about, and we can go in deeper in some other talks, and maybe we can get a fun going and get old Billy down here and sit him on the show. I'd love to talk to him about some of his, just growing up in Southwest Virginia. And I didn't even know there was a book out there, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I wanted to tell everybody to go buy it because I'm actually going to go do it right now. But it's called, let's see, I had it up here a second ago. A Way Out. Is that the name of it? Faith, Hope, and Love of the Game, Billy Wagner. You can go on Amazon right now, buy it in bookstores. I think I'm going to buy a copy because I love reading. And, it's a story that's probably everybody should know.
It's a good read.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And Billy would come down for, a glass of water. You don't need to ever think about doing something for him. He's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
That's what I've always heard. I'm excited about that. So hopefully we can make that happen at some point in time because I know everybody around here would love to hear how he's been doing because he really was a Franklin County icon. To not be from here, everybody here knew him and loved him and talked about him. So
he's got kids that are playing pro ball, and he's got a daughter that's starting basketball at Radford.
You were telling me about that the other day. It was mind blowing. I was like, man, you just aged me.
Hey,
You just aged me.
his wife's the best athlete in
In
that
the
family.
family.
She scored 1,000 points at Ferrum.
So he stuck with his wife. He met her at Ferrum too and been with her all these years. Yeah.
That's awesome.
She was a great athlete. I tell Billy that's where they get it from. I appreciate y'all having me.
No, thank you
Yes,
again.
I love talking about Franklin County.
Well, we're going to have to do it again and find different things to talk about because I know y'all boys know a lot, and a lot of this stuff needs to be shared and talked about, and I enjoy doing it. So
We love this place, and if I forgot someone, I hate it.
if you forgot somebody, I guarantee I'm going to see it in the comment section. So we'll bring
We'll get
up.
them next
I
time.
love them. We'll get them next time, and I'll tell a story about them.
So, yeah.
I'm sure there's some.
So CJ Carter, Coach Naff, thank y'all so much again,
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you next time.
Thank you.